I just returned from China, and this was right as Antony Blinken was right after Janet Yellen came to China, and then before Antony Blinken came to China. Surprisingly enough, or unsurprisingly enough, nobody was really interested in this diplomacy. At least, there wasn't a lot of optimism among those I was with. But Blinken came and went. And the big, although of course, there's been all this talk about overcapacity in China and sanctions coming on China. There's still this narrative that's being pushed around by the United States of trying to break up Russia and China, that basically targeting China for its so-called support over the conflict, that the United States will take care of it themselves if China does not fix this problem for the United States. Now, Scott, uh, we just talked about Israel's waning legitimacy in terms of its status in the world. The United States appears to be going through this big time as well in parallel. I'm wondering your thoughts about this latest diplomatic game, we could call it, that Blinken and the United States have been playing with China, and with, of course, it always goes back to Russia as well. So your thoughts?
Well, first of all, it's reflective of an act of desperation on the part of the United States. We said the same thing to Russia. We're going to sanction you to death. We're going to put on these overwhelming sanctions that are going to collapse your economy. Don't go into Ukraine. It'll be all over. It'll be bad for you. And the sanctions never achieved what they were supposed to. In fact, they backfired. The Chinese a heck of a lot better than I do. I would imagine that China is full of fairly strategic thinkers. What I mean by that is they're not taken by surprise by very much. They consider all options, all possibilities, especially those that are linked to public statements, declaratory policy statements made by potential adversaries like the United States. The notion of American sanctions against China is not a new notion. We have sanctions, active sanctions ongoing against China on a number of fronts right now. But what we haven't done to date is sanction China's financial institutions. In order for this to work, you have to believe that China has extraordinarily fragile financial institutions, and that China's relationship with the world is really built more on eggshells than tempered steel. And that's just not the case. China has been involved in Belt and Roads initiatives, $7 to $10 trillion or more in terms of global investments. They've built up global supply chains that are unmatched. They tap into just about every aspect of the global economy. They have far more global resilience than the United States does. It's not the Chinese yuan or renminbi that's in a global crisis. It's the United States dollar that is. So for Blinken to come in and threaten China is just absurd in the extreme. China is a responsible nation. They have made strategic commitments to Russia, not just in private, but in public. Does Blinken think that he can actually get Xi Jinping to reverse course on publicly stated policy goals and objectives regarding Russia, the strategic relationship between the two? No. And if you take a look at what Russia and China have been doing for the past 2 years, they've been broadening and deepening their economic interaction. We're not going to sanction China into doing anything. The hardest decisions, and we talked about this with Russia, the hardest decisions are those decisions that create pain for you. And so you avoid those decisions because you don't want the pain. Nobody wants to voluntarily suffer pain. But like anything, when you're confronted with the inevitability of the pain, then you adjust to adapt to the pain and get through the pain. That's what Russia had to do with the sanctions that we put on it. China will do the same thing. It's not like China is going to collapse like a house of cards because the United States has threatened sanctions again. First of all, China understands its economy better than the United States, just like Russia understands it. I had to laugh again today at people who I just remember when they were talking about the oil cap and restricting Russian oil. I said to every one of them, I said, I think Russia knows the oil industry, especially the Russian oil industry, and especially how Russian oil industry interfaces with the global oil industry a hell of a lot better than anybody in your organization. And yet you're out there making proclamations and poo-pooing this. That's Russian propaganda. That's this, that, the other thing. But finally, they had to admit that the price cap has had no effect on the Russians, that the Russians have just built a global ghost fleet of tankers that operates outside of the span of control of Western insurance companies, delivering oil now in a way that can't be monitored by the West effectively. So we have no clue what they're doing. We have no basis upon which to judge anything except the damn Russian economy keeps growing. And I'm here to predict that if we sanction the Chinese, we'll be doing the same thing. The damn Chinese economy keeps growing. It doesn't shrink. What does shrink is us, because the sanctions will backfire on us like we wouldn't believe. The Chinese will will turn the tables on us. We'll find ourselves in, with a dollar shortage or a dollar crisis based upon the collapse of global confidence in the dollar. China may dump all the treasuries that they bought. They won't buy up any more debt. We're just literally committing suicide. Instead of, the smartest policy is to say, Russia won in Ukraine. We can't stop it. So let's mitigate the damage. Let's do damage control. Let's contain this beast and pull back and see if we can regroup. But we just keep doubling down on stupid. This is like being at Las Vegas, and I just put my kid's college fund on the table, put it all on red, and it went black. So in my infinite wisdom, I'm taking the mortgage and I'm putting it on the table too, doubling down on stupid. Odds are they're going to take my mortgage too. And that's what the United States is doing. We're just putting everything there. And right now with China, we're playing the sanctions card one more time, one too many times. We're going to bet on the sanctions and they're going to fail. China's just better at this game than we are because we're reacting. The Chinese have been waiting for this, so they have a plan. And you're going to find as soon as we do something, they're going to do what John Boyd, 32nd Boyd of the OODA loop fame. You're familiar with the OODA loop. Boyd, said if I go head to head with any fighter pilot, I will turn things around and shoot him down by causing him to react to me. So we're going to come in thinking we're in the driver's seat. We're going to put sanctions on, but because China's anticipated the sanctions, they're going to hit us with a move now that has us reacting in a way that we didn't anticipate, and they're going to own the cycle and they're going to win. And that's what's going to happen here if we get into a sanctions-based conflict with China.
Yeah. I mean, in 2023, and this will be ongoing, China's biggest oil supplier was Russia, surpassed Saudi Arabia. That's a byproduct of what the United States and what, of course, its European vassals did to Russia with the sanctions. And you're exactly right, Scott. And China doesn't have to do that much. When I was there, and also just reading the materials, and I did this trip, I was around a lot of communists. Oh no, but actually, that's who's in the government. That's the government. The Communist Party of China is the government. So I was around a good number of them, and one of the things that's very stark is that there's a lot of discipline in the policy orientation of the party. The party is the leadership, and whatever policies the party has in place, that's what people follow, and that's what people know, that's what they implement. And what is so interesting, I was in Jilin province, on the Korean border, also borders Russia. And it's quite clear that even in just the last several years, that increased oil trade with Russia has produced enormous opportunities for enhanced investment for this little province. They're the leaders. They're building the high-speed rails. They're building the electric vehicles in large numbers in this very tiny province because, in large part, of the ability to enhance manufacturing through this oil trade, through this partnership with Russia. So this has huge ramifications, and China doesn't even have to do that much. If China is sanctioned, they're going to do what they've been doing, which is investing more, becoming more self-reliant. this is how China's economy is shaking out now. There's all this panic in the Western media about, oh, China's collapsing, its economy is collapsing. If you look at the numbers of where they're investing, it's not collapsing. The tech sector, the renewable energy sector, all of these more innovative, high value added goods, China's growing astronomically in these areas. It's the property sector, already too expensive in China, in many big cities in China, Beijing, Shanghai. That's an intentional thing. If you go there, you'll see that many people are talking about how that's intentional. That's not, oh no, there's some kind of economic disequilibrium. No, they're saying this is too expensive. These companies are running roughshod. We can't have this happen. So we're going to shift where we prioritize. So China doesn't have to do that much. And similarly to almost how Russia, they had thousands of sanctions, certainly make you do a lot. But once the adjustment occurred, now it feels almost like second nature for Russia. So anyway, any final thoughts, Scott?
No, it's I mean, we live in a changing world. I'll just throw this out at the end. I mean, the United States and its infinite desire for creating chaos and anarchy. Just everybody keep an eye on Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, where the United States is seeking to foment a Maidan-style revolution against the Georgian government that's trying to crack down on American soft power coup. There's riots in the street right now. It reminds me very much of what was going on in Kiev back in December 2013, January 2014. This thing could go south real quick. And when I mean south, I mean a civil war, which would be terrible for the Republic of Georgia, terrible for the region. But it's America. I mean, this is what America does. We don't bring peace and prosperity anywhere we go. We bring death and destruction. And the Chinese need to realize that. The whole world needs to realize that. Until America changes the way it does business, the world just needs to treat us like the pariah we are, and just stop doing business with us. It may be painful at first, but we don't bring anything to the table. We're not doing anything positive. We just kill people. And right now, America is getting ready to destroy the nation that my wife is from, to destroy the nation that she was born in, that she loves, that her relatives are there. And it's a small nation. It can't afford a conflict like this. A civil war will kill thousands, tens of thousands. And Georgia as a nation can't afford to do this. And so just keep your prayers out there for Georgia, and keep your prayers for the world. I mean, man, I wish my country was behaving better than what it is. It's not good.
Yeah. Well, and that's always the big issue, I feel like. And a lot of people will criticize me and say, "Oh, you're always talking about the United States doing this or that," and I just have to direct them to, well, the United States is doing this or that. The United States is spending all of this money on war. It is, while Israel's committing this genocide, facilitating that, enabling that. Being a party to that, Ukraine, the Asia Pacific. I mean, all of these conflicts could lead to the big conflict that we all, I know we both share a deep commitment to preventing, because of how catastrophic. I mean, it would be. You've said it on this show. That would be it. Game over humanity. Like that is what, at bare minimum, we should be committed to stopping. And so we're in an election year. I feel like we're always in an election year, but our choices are in the mainstream two-party system are what they are. And we are on a kind of a collision course of the world is changing, I believe, for the positive, and the real threat here is the United States, and of course all of its hangers on, how they respond, how it responds to all of this. And so far it has not been good. So far it has definitely
Look, I'm with you, Dan. I'm the most patriotic guy in the world. I mean, I love my country, but I'm also very honest. If there was something, trust me on this one, if there was something that I could wrap myself in the flag and walk around going USA, USA, USA legitimately, I'd be the first one to do it. I'm damn proud. I'm more than happy to walk around and pump my fist and praise my country, but give me something to praise. For all the people that are out there, they keep going, you're pro-Russian. Not pro-Russian, I'm pro-American. But I take a look at the Russian-American equation, and I'm going, the only guy that's trying to actually solve problems is Putin. You know, if you don't want me to be saying good things about Putin, give me better things to say about America. Give me something to say about America. All right. My goal is to create the conditions for peace between the United States and Russia. But if Russia is the only one that's putting anything out there on the table, then I'm going to take advantage of that right now, not because I'm pro-Russian or because I'm leaning towards Russia. It's because that's the indirect approach to improve things for my country. God, if my country could take the lead on that, I'd be on that board. I'd be moving that direction. I want to be behind my country. I want to be working with my country. But we got nothing right now, Danny. We got nothing. And that's the sad fact. And so, yeah, I'm very critical of my country, not because I want to be critical. I want to say nice things. I want to praise my country. But my God, please give me something to say. And if you can't, then don't condemn me for pointing out the harsh truth that the Russians are doing it better than we are right now.
Yeah, and I apologize for keeping you longer. It's just I don't know if I'll get another chance to say this for a bit. So, I've been seeing that there's been cynicism about the college student encampments, protests regarding the Gaza genocide. I've also, to your point, it's quite clear that when it comes to the United States, of course, there's a difference between people and the government and the system. But in terms of what's positive right now, these encampments and the changes in opinions on things like Gaza and all of this activity, that's very positive. I think where the problem resides for me is we still feel very far away from that leading to a significant political change that can lead to a widespread change in the way the United States conducts itself. Both at home and abroad. We got a lot of. I know you talk a lot of problems here in the United States. We have a lot of powerful people who do very, very awful things to vulnerable people, and of course that goes without saying when it comes to foreign policy. So, for all of the positive, and I think people are moving in a good direction in the main. It's the fact that there is still this systemic problem, this fact that those who control the levers of power, they are not taking the United States in a good direction. They're taking the United States in a suicidal direction because the United States' approach right now to foreign policy is what looks like to be an attempt to maintain hegemony and expand influence and all of this. But the results are far from that. The results are the opposite. And while that's not, I don't cry, or I think the United States needs to be what I was told when I went to China in July. The United States needs to be another country. I believe that wholeheartedly, but it's the impact of U.S. foreign policy on both the world and both people at home that is the big problem, because it's catastrophic, and we're seeing that play out over and over. So I just needed to say that. If you have any final, I like to close with you, Scott. So if you have any final thoughts, we can then end here.
Well, I'll try and come up with something positive here. When I went to college, Franklin Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, graduated in 1984, stepped on the campus for the first time in 1981. There was a tree down by the student, the main faculty building, the president's building, all this stuff. It was called I think it's a demonstration tree or something, but it was a place where during the Vietnam War, students would go up and post the assemblies, takeovers, things like that. And our professors, because I was there in the 80s, so many of the professors there that were nearing retirement were professors during the Vietnam War period, and they spoke of the activism of the students. And I remember one professor walked me to the tree and showed me the tree and showed me the nails, and he explained the history of each one of these nails and how it related to student activism and how he had felt so encouraged and empowered by the students believing in something so much that they would actually go forth and demonstrate in favor of that. My generation We didn't do any damn protests. We basically drank beer, played football, went to frat parties, graduated, and some mixture of that in between for everybody. There were no big demonstrations. I mean, there was politically active people, but it was flash in the pan, and that I became very jaundiced with college students over the years. I just thought that because I've spoken at a lot of universities and I've seen, especially remember during the lead up to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. I mean, I was everywhere. I went all over the world to university campuses. I spoke to stadiums full of thousands of students, and not a damn thing happened. We went to war, and then it all went away. There was no accountability, and I just gave up on it. I got to tell you, Danny, I'm pretty impressed right now because what's happening on these campuses, it's not just one campus. It's the entire damn student body in America waking up and saying no to something, saying no to bad policy. And the government came down hard on these guys. I mean, the police brutality, the violence, etc. And it ain't going away. The students are doubling down. They're coming in. They're outflanking. It's expanding. This is an awakening of what universities are supposed to be. Because I see a lot of people say, "Why aren't they in the classroom?" It is the damn classroom. It's called the classroom of civic responsibility. It's called the classroom of citizenship. These are students who actually have opened their minds and their hearts, and they see a great wrong, and they're trying to right the wrong only the way that they can through demonstrations. It's what American campuses, to be honest, should be doing. And I'd prefer they were in the classroom, but when you have something like this, the students are sort of the conscience of a nation, because the rest of us are locked into our existence. We go to jobs, we get torn down with paying taxes. The students are the last free liberated class in America because they don't have a damn thing to worry about. They've either bankrupted themselves by taking loans, or mama and papa have bankrupted themselves to pay for their colleges, but they're in college, baby. Tuition's paid for. They got it. They got 4 years to sit there and become good citizens, become educated citizens, to learn about the world. And they're out there doing great things right now. God bless the American students, because they're out there, they're taking a stand, and they're showing us, leading by example. So I want to leave with that positive aspect of it right now. I'm behind the students 110%, not because I agree with everything they say. I don't. But I agree with the passion they bring to this. It's the passion that I want every American to have about something. I want every American to be this passionate about something in their lives, passionate about peace, passionate about nuclear disarmament, passionate about the Palestinian people, passionate about being opposed to Israeli genocide. Be passionate about something. So look at these students, applaud these students, support these students, be like these students.
Indeed. I mean, that's so well put. I've seen so many quibbles, so many, even from people who I would consider to be in the interests of peace and really, there's a lot of cynicism out there. There's a lot of suspicion for those of us who are always studying the nefarious activities of the powerful. But at the same time, with these students and what they're doing, I look, I've been a leftist all my life. Or at least all my political life, that I count. I know what it could be to just find something to disagree with. I mean, I've dropped this mainly in my life now, but find something you disagree with and just focus on that and be like, okay, well, why aren't they correct? But if we look at the bigger picture here, what they're doing, even their tactics, even how they're doing it. Some people, oh, it's like rioting. Well, I don't know what is the right way to respond to something as grotesque as what we're seeing. Right? Like, this is grotesque.
Boston Tea Party. Boston frickin' Tea Party. I don't want to hear anything from any patriotic American about what the students are doing. The Boston Tea Party. Okay? We went out in the damn Boston Harbor. We boarded a ship illegally. We put tea up and we threw it in the damn harbor because we were opposed to the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party. All right.
Right.
So the students are carrying out the modern day version of the Boston Tea Party. Is it disruptive? It better be, because you don't pay attention. Nobody pays attention if it was the Boston Cup of Tea Party. You know, people came together. Oh, they would just pour a cup of tea. Yes, two cubes of sugar, please. Yes, we're a little bit upset about the Stamp Act, and we'd appreciate it if. Oh, yes, this is very nice tea, by the way. We'd appreciate it if you somehow got back to the king and told the king that we're perhaps. Nothing's going to happen that way. Board the damn ship, dress up like Indians, throw the tea in the harbor, and say no. Okay? So America's about standing up and making noise when it's the right thing to do.
Thank you for tuning in to my latest video. I appreciate all of your support. This channel, however, needs your help. I am seeking to make this channel more sustainable in the long term and upgrade necessary equipment to ensure that this work continues onward and makes progress to give you all of the geopolitical analysis that you all deserve. For that reason, I'm asking you to become a member of my Patreon community at patreon.com/DannyDhaiphong. You can find that link in the video description or in the pinned comment below. For whatever amount you choose to give, just know you are supporting independent media that you can't find anywhere else. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the next video.